Good evening. Welcome to an episode of the spooky time in the Tyler Moore. But the Tyler Moore is actually quite a festive place. We have a Halloween park here in the City Hall Park of Sophia, of one of the major cities in the Tyler Moore. They're celebrating the spooky season. They've got the haunted house, and for those who don't like to be scared, they've got the Ferris wheel and the bumper cars too, as well as a jack-o'-lantern maze that you can not get lost in because it's too easy to find your way out. A lovely, fun district. The Tyler Moore, some might say, is really very merry, which really makes it yep, you guessed it, Mary Tyler Moore. Now, the two main cities in the main Tyler Moore district area, there's a Tyler Moore East as well, but that's another story. Here in the main cities of Sophia and Isabella, which back up onto one another and kind of make one megalopolis, I'll be showing you today an overview of this area and the main region of Tyler Moore, as well as a few little spooky surprises. Granted, this was filmed in October. It is now December by the time I get to edit this because this is not my regular thing. But for now, I would love to share with you this great city, which is still running on my computer, so maybe it will continue. Unlike the last one that crashed from the last major update that we got with the promenades back in September 2022. We won't be seeing any more Montfort Châtelet. That's gone and dead, but Isabella Sophia is here for the time being, so let's celebrate that. Now, I'm just going to give you a general rundown of this massive space because there's a lot to go over. So I think a good place to begin would be between the two cities in the Tiergarten, which is one of the main parks of the region. Across the river there is Kresge Point Park, a totally different park, but this triangular shaped one here has Sophia to the south end, Isabella to the other side, and the river to the other side of it. Along the river there's a beautiful bus path that I will show you later, but for now, the hedge maze. Simple enough to get through that your kids won't get lost. There are no minotaurs to, terrify anyone. Some fountains and statues at the dead ends as a special little surprise when you get stuck. Just a nice, enjoyable outdoor activity, and not common. I don't think a lot of cities have a big hedge maze in their parks, although I really don't know why. They can be really fun and beautiful. And then across the greenery of the park, we have a big music stage with a few rows of seating in front, and then more sort of picnic area behind it for people to bring their lawn chairs to for fun, free outdoor concerts in the summertime, or even in the winter too. I'm sure you can certainly play a saxophone in the snow. So why not have a concert in the park in the winter time? Maybe there are hot chocolate dispensers. Who knows? So the Tiergarten, as you can see, here's the bus line, and this is the most used bus line in the region so far, and it takes you straight up to the most important square in Sophia, which is Peace Square. This bus line here carries you behind the park, also acts as a border to keep people from wandering through the park to the cliffside and down, taking a tumble into the river. But then Peace Square here, sort of the heart and core of the city of Sophia, numerous monuments, lots of peace flags, very little traffic. It is a very well-functioning square in a rather quiet part of the city, really. Several districts just in Sophia alone, in this central heart of the city. I'll explain that a little bit more in detail shortly, because there is quite an expanse, and this is only the city of Sophia. Isabella is on the other side of the park, still quite a lot. We also have other towns around them and industrial areas. Um, but here in Sofia, we have downtown with the taller skyscraper district, and that is separated from downtown Isabela by this boulevard. If I can get that to show, here we go. So there's this long boulevard here that stretches between the two cities. It was actually the original highway that the map began with, but I decided to bring it down to a narrower, as you can see, I'll go up here. I'll show you where I narrowed it down into 2 lanes going into each direction, with a guard in the middle, because I wanted to discourage car traffic. I wanted to emphasize biking, walking, and transit in the city. So I figured, as they make highways wider and wider to accommodate more and more cars start using it, and it continues to clog. So I used the reverse psychology on that, and I shrank the highway right from the get-go, right at the beginning, put the chokehold on heavy traffic. And this way there's still a good truck thoroughfare for deliveries to be made through the city. There's a bit of an expressway to travel through different parts pretty quickly without having to be stopped regularly all the time at intersections. But it still functions as a boulevard throughout the city. It doesn't disconnect neighborhoods. It keeps things tied together. At Peace Square here in Sofia, here's the map now. The red line is the boulevard. Blue is Sofia. Yellow is Isabela. And the orange over here is Milltown. Now we also have parks, the Tiergarten and Kresge Point Park here. We also have the city park beside City Hall of Sofia and the Sofia Common, which is a conservation district. We have the University of Sofia as well as Polytechnic, Milltown Polytechnic. Downtown Cultural Center, right beside City Hall and City Park, we have the gigantic monumental theater. Really sort of the main gathering point of the city. And in here we have a variety of cultural institutions. We have a mosque. We have the social services of the entire Tyler Moore district, sort of centralized here near Sofia City Hall. We also have this bell tower, old bell tower, in the square, and aptly named Bell Tower Square. Along with that, we have a few cultural institutions here, not just religious and social, but we also have the Bell Tower Theater, Bell Tower Square Theater. There's also City Hall Park and City Hall, and the University of Sofia with a hockey arena and a track and field stadium. The Common has a little fishing pond at the end of it, right across the street from Market Square. Beside Market Square, we have the neighborhood of Methuselah Rock, oldest part of the city. This is legendary. It was supposedly a mountain that had been mined down and mined down and mined down until we had nothing but a lot of roads and buildings made out of this hill. Now those roads are clogged with traffic. Methuselah Rock is insufferable. You cannot get through it. I have so many loops and roundabouts and highway off-ramps to try and fix the traffic. But the city council of Isabela, actually Methuselah Rock is within the jurisdiction of Isabela, they've voted to move Methuselah Rock into the mountains, where there are more mountains to tear down and mine through to pave these gargantuan streets clogged with trucks, and build these glass skyscrapers that we have all throughout the city. So take a gander. The original Methuselah Rock, oldest part of the city, will be dismantled and moved in its entirety to other regions of the city to make 2 new, not smaller, but larger areas for mining. Then Malalaton Manor, just across the river from Methuselah Rock. I love naming at least one thing in every city after Malala Yousafzai. And here is the manor house. I can picture Hyacinth and Richard Bouquet as they travel to the stately home on the weekend to catch a glimpse of Her Ladyship. You know, a fun little place on the weekend for families to go and learn a bit about local history, and walk about the old garden grounds, through the forest, and just enjoy an afternoon out with the family. The industrial hinterlands of this city are quite extensive. It begins with Woodford out here. In Woodford, we have the oil district and the forestry districts, just at the foothills of the mountains. Moving over into the Tawny River Transfer area, which is a bit of a residential district supplying workers to the forestry and oil industries. And across the Tawny River, we have Airport Island, first part of the city that I built because I wanted to get it out of the way right away. Built a massive airport, expecting it to be very busy. As you can see, I have a ton of passengers who've been here, but not so much anymore. Seems to have died down in time. Across the river from that is the town of Gentry. Now, this is an agricultural town. I will be improving the portlands because they definitely, as you can see, are quite primitive at the moment. This is just temporary stand-in so that I could get some employment supplied to the farms. Suburban expansion of the city, we have two different areas, Kresge Point and this area of Sophia, which you can see is lower density than the rest of the city. This area unofficially is known as Stanton, but is within the city of Sophia. It amalgamated sometime in the past. But this is a lower density area where I like to use the Smiley's row houses because Smiley's has done such a beautiful job on these. All of Smiley's assets are really, really high quality. I really recommend you check out their stuff on the workshop. But these American townhouse sets, they blend together so well, and they look a lot like the housing here in the city where I live. And I really like the fact that I can make a realistic middle-class neighborhood with some bright colors and lots of variations, and it makes it very fun and playful. These houses that you see here actually with the gables on them, I once lived in an apartment. These here that you can see, yep. The top 2 floors of that was one apartment that I split with 3 roommates, and it was just wonderful. The second floor bay window is where we would eat our breakfast. It was our breakfast nook, and it was in the trees like Swiss Family Robinson. The squirrels would run up to the window ledge and look at us while we ate our cereal and drank our coffee all bleary-eyed. This is a very standard Toronto vernacular type of architecture here. We call it the Bay and Gable, and it's sort of our local specialty. So to make these expansive neighborhoods, I don't do one at a time because it would be mind-boggling, because you have to line up every single one. So I like to make a row to begin with, and then using Move It, I will select a bunch of them together and just hit the copy button and copy paste a section, and then I'll move it over to the area that needs to be developed, and I've got a whole chunk, and then I just place it somewhere along the corner, where making sure I have the grid on so that I can line things up properly and a bit more easily. I do a kerplunk, and then so it doesn't just get too mundane and cookie cutter, I select another random chunk of homes, and then I just kerplunk that down. And these Smiley's row houses are so easy to line up because the roof lines, either the central roof line on the pitched roofs or the flat roofs have crown molding that really line up easily, so you don't have to strain your eyesight to get it to line up properly. Now on to Milltown, which really could use its own video series. It gets very detailed. I really dug into this. We begin with Polytechnic and its 2 stadiums, and we continue down through the old arena and into the town of Milltown where the workers live. Milltown was established long ago when there was very little in the area but horse and buggies, and this was where the sawmill was originally running on the river. As a result, a lot of the manufacturing in the area was originally centered on this Milltown Peninsula. Now, what you see here is, as I said, recorded in October video. A lot of it is still yet to be developed, yet as I edit this, I know the expansion of this Milltown really gets intense. I cannot wait to show you more. But they began with their first arena, which is originally the Maple Leaf Gardens in Toronto, which is one of the few projects in the city I really, really love. They did a great job renovating it. They turned it into a grocery store and into a sports facility for a local Toronto Metropolitan University. The grocery store is really expensive. I don't get to shop there often, but it's pretty. But they reserved some of the old bleacher seats and stuck them in the wall as a sculpture inside, preserving part of the history of what used to be the gardens, the Great Gardens. Then across the street, I have this tower complex here that I've built. This is the union for the workers of Milltown and the Mary Tyler Moore, because there are a lot of manufacturing areas in this district. And those workers have rights that cannot be squashed. So I figured I would give them the National Workers Union. And the National Workers Union is quite successful. And they even have the National Workers Trust, which is a bank that is run by the same union. A great way to fund the union. So union dues don't have to be too high to have a union bank. Also, a name that a lot of people will trust for a financial institution. Now, all of these factories here, we have furniture mills and paper mills and woolen mills, but the town itself is really sweet because we have Milltown Hall here in the center of the circle as sort of the centerpiece of town, surrounded by these very, very old homes. Milltown was built so long ago. It's a kind of a National Historic Register type of town, although we don't like to make things too unrealistic. So even if your house burns down or has to be torn down for whatever reason and you need to rebuild, yes, you may build a modern townhouse. We're not going to stop you from that. It's your home. You can build it as you see fit. Things need to evolve and grow, but as long as the majority of the history is preserved in Milltown, wrapped around by the city's big boulevard that snakes and winds and creates boundaries. Now, throughout Milltown, I'll try to scooch up a little bit more. Oh no, we'll still look at the houses. The houses, still Smiley's houses. They work in the suburbs. They work in the historic town. They work downtown. Go check them out. Go upvote Smiley's work because they could certainly use more appreciation. Encourage them to keep making more because it's the users that contribute to the community that give us these wonderful assets and mods that make the game really enjoyable and can still be played on for so long. We have the Milltown Civic Center, public library. We have a school. We have an administrative building, which on the workshop is a school but looks so much like an office building that I decided to attach it to a high school, make it look more like an administrative building here. Really just a lovely town to raise a family and live a quiet, happy life by the river. Go catch a hockey game once in a while. You can walk across the river on a bridge to Kresge Point Park and walk all through that park up into Kresge Point and see another city. Really, it's really a great central place to be in the Tyler Moore because you're not in the loud city, but you're right beside it. You have great schools. You have great parks. What more could you ask for? We even have, in this seemingly tiny town, we have 2 streetcar lines. 2, not just 1, but 2. Maybe overbuilt, but when you're playing with unlimited money, it doesn't matter. Give them all the streetcar lines they want. And it works because a lot of people use the transit, and as you can see, the streets are really not super clogged in this part of town. Here we have a newer factory. This is the Graham Greene Furniture Factory, named after the venerable Canadian actor Graham Greene, because I was talking to some people one day, realized he's really underappreciated. He's a fantastic actor that you hardly ever hear of, just like Smiley's. Go check out Graham Greene. If you don't know who Graham Greene is, go look him up on IMDb. Enjoy his work. He's wonderful. Award-winning. Definitely deserves more awards. So I thought I'd honor him with a bit of Milltown history. As you can see here, across the river we go to Kresge Point, developed much like the Stanton district of Sophia. Same form of copy-paste housing blocks. I find it's a good technique. You can really stretch out development pretty quickly. Makes for a lot of residents, and it doesn't take a lot of your time, and looks really natural. Now, throughout the city here, I think we've gone through most of the overview of most of the districts. We'll do a city tour in a moment, but for now, we'll return to where we began, at the city park. This time, not at night. You'll see it in the daylight. You can see some of the amenities that we have. Lots of paths. We have a great big cafe. We have a memorial. They're already putting up the Christmas market, getting ready for the holiday season, after the pumpkin festival gets packed up and put away. To make this pumpkin walk, I used the jack-o'-lantern assets, as well as golden phragmites and fall lantanas. If you wish to use that combination, please do. It works very well. I've got the spooky ghosts and bats and spiders kind of dangling about, but those don't glow quite as much, although the ghosts show up pretty well, but not so much the black spiders or bats. But it really makes for a great effect. I love the sound effects that haunted house makes. Props to those who made that, because it really adds a great atmosphere to this spooky park. As I said, it's just because this was filmed around Halloween that you managed to see the Halloween festivities. That's not here year round. It has been packed away for the winter now that it is December, and there's snow on the ground in the Tyler Moor, and the trees have lost their leaves, and all you can see now is green evergreen conifer and sticky dead bare trees with no leaves and lots of snow. Next time you see the Tyler Moor, it will be drastically different. I promise you that. Thank you so much for joining me on this overview tour. I hope you've enjoyed it. There will be more to come. But until then, I will leave you off with a city tour. I hope you enjoy, and I hope to see you next time. Thank you, and bye-bye.
a poison tree. I was angry with my friend. I told my wrath did end. I was angry with my foe. I told it not, my wrath did grow. And I watered it in fears, night and morning with my tears, and I sunned it with smiles, and with soft deceitful wiles, and it grew both day and night, till it bore an apple bright, and my foe beheld it shine, and he knew that it was mine, and into my garden stole, when the night had veiled the pole. In the morning glad I see my foe outstretched beneath the tree.
This is Grief by Elizabeth Barrett Browning. I tell you, hopeless grief is passionless, that only men, incredulous of despair, half taught in anguish, through the midnight air, beat upward to God's throne in loud excess of shrieking and reproach. Full desertness, in souls as countries lie silent bare, under the blanching, vertical eye glare of the absolute heavens. Deep-hearted man, express grief for thy dead in silence like to death, most like a monumental statue set in everlasting watch and moveless woe, till itself crumble to the dust beneath. Touch it. The marble eyelids are not wet. If it could weep, it could arise and go.